Hey everybody, and welcome to December's edition of Board Games Hitting My Table, at least the second half of December. This is where I talk about all the games that I played during this half of the month. Now it's going to be a relatively short video because I haven't played too many games, but before I get into the games I want to give a shout out to the show's sponsor KIENDA.co.uk, who are my go-to online retailer, and if you use the link in the show notes or the QR code then you can get 5% off your first order. And I wanted to start this video with kind of the biggest feature that I've played, and that is Maracaibo. And I call it the biggest feature because I have not played this game in, I believe, nearly 3 years, despite me rating it really highly. You know, it's in my top 30 at the moment. And, I have very fond memories of this game, but for one reason or another, probably because of its weight, I just haven't had the chance to get it back to the table. And I was somewhat apprehensive to play it because since I played this last and today, my taste of board gaming has changed slightly. I'm starting to prefer games with fewer rules, fewer rules overhead, easier to set up, easier to pack away, that kind of thing. This one is polar opposite of that, but I'm so happy to say that when I got this back to the table, I had an absolute blast, and it was a stark reminder as to why I love Euros like this. This is, I believe, Alexander Pfister's magnum opus. It's his best game by far, at least that I've played. I don't think I've played them all. But this is kind of a kitchen sink of a Euro game. It's almost like a rondel. We were going around this track and visiting these different locations. It has a great multi-use card system where you can build an engine of cards up. You can drop these... use the cards as like goods and resources to cash in these contracts to get other bonuses. There's a track you want to climb across. There's this almost like a stocks and shares style mechanism where you are multiplied at the end of the game depending on the standings of these three different nations. And as I said, it really is a kitchen sink style game. But this game surprisingly was easier to play and remember than I thought it would be. I thought it's going to be a bit of a burden to relearn, but actually mechanically it isn't that complex, and it really is about how you use those cards and the decision space, because there is a lot of things to consider here. And it was really cool to see that we went very different pathways, because I did play a 3-player game. One player really focused on building a card engine and mostly focusing on combat. I was mainly focusing on trying to climb this kind of passive point income. And one of my other opponents, and myself to be honest, were pushing along the little exploration track, trying to get those bonuses. And a very balanced game. One thing that is a little bit jarring with this game is that the combat mechanism is barely that. It's just that in name, really. It's kind of more of an additional currency where you're spending to get favour in these different nations. So I think maybe when you're teaching the game, explaining it as combat can be a little bit misleading. But yeah, definitely a verification as to why I love this game so much. And it's still, I'm actually really looking forward to playing it soon again because I enjoyed it that much. So that is Maracaibo. A joy to get that one back to the table. It wouldn't be an edition of Board Games Hitting My Table without me talking about Rapido. I played 3 games of this with my family at Christmas. An absolute blast. 3 of the best games that I played. My dad actually won all 3 games back to back. One of them was a huge comeback where he was way behind on the track and he ended up coming back. If you don't know about this one, it's a simple push your luck dice rolling game that I think is the best of its genre. I played a 2-player game of Capital Lux. I didn't play my own copy. I played a friend's copy of the pocket version, which is the same game but in a smaller box with less of the modules in that box. One of my favourite card games of all time, if not my favourite card game of all time. And this was the worst performance of a game of Capital Lux that I played. I got absolutely trounced in terms of the scoring. I did not do well at all. I think I maybe played a little bit too conservatively and wasn't gambling on drawing more cards because I didn't want to get caught off guard. But this is like a blackjack variant with variable powers and things. Again, I love this game. I've talked about it for years and I'll continue to play it and continue to advocate it. Talking about great card games, I played a 2-player game of Forest Shuffle. Forest Shuffle did very well in my ratings this year in terms of best games of 2023, as well as winning card game of the year. on my Chairman's Choice Awards. I think this game is a wonderful set collection game. A few additional twists, such as, paying for cards with other cards, and this kind of public pool mechanism where when you're playing with cards, they go into a public array of cards which can be drafted by the other players. It's so much fun, it's breezy, tons of set collection, synergizing and crossover of set collection, and I think it is fantastic. A few smaller card games that I played with my family on Christmas Day. We played No Thanks, Coloretto, and Six Nimmt. These games are kind of a few of the very small selection of games that my dad will play. He's not a board gamer, and he kind of plays games that are more familiar to him. No Thanks was actually a really, really good experience. Despite only being 3 players, it is generally better at 4+. But I actually haven't played No Thanks for quite some time, so it was nice to get that one back to the table. Took some big gambles trying to fill in those gaps and things, and we had a few good games of that one. An absolute classic. The same goes for all of these, really. These are all classics. Coloretto. Coloretto, simple set collection game, revealing these chameleons. Only your 3 best sets are going to score, and anything above that will score negative points. I think it was a point or 2 in the game. I think I just managed to squeeze it with one of the wild chameleons. So yeah, nice to get that back to the table as well. And also, we played a couple of games of Six Nimmt. Some rookie mistakes made in this one. My dad was getting quite cocky that he won the first game. We played another game, and he made a very silly play and ended up taking a whole bunch of points and was quite frustrated. But that was quite funny for the rest of us. So if you don't know Six Nimmt, it's a unique card game where you're simultaneously playing cards, trying not to take these negative points. It's an absolute blast. Staying on the theme of small card games, I played a couple of games actually of Archaeology, a new expedition by Phil Walker Harding. Another set collection game with quite a strong push your luck mechanism, as each time you can draw these sandstorms and lose all the cards in your hand. And we had quite an interesting shuffle because I think the first quarter of the game we drew about 75% to 80% of the sandstorms. So it was pretty much start and stop for that first half, and then after that we started to build up a bit of an engine of cards, or a collection of cards. Now there's one particular set in this game that's really valuable. There's like Tutankhamun heads, and if you get like 4 of them, you're pretty much guaranteed to win the game. I managed to get 3 of them and cash them in, which I believe just about swung me the victory. But I think I'm normally actually really bad at this game and don't do well at all, but I think that was the best performance I've had in Archaeology. Sorry. I played some more Wild Tiled West. So recently I rated this one very high on my not only best games of 2023, but also most recent ranking video and stuff. And this is like quite a thematic polyomino style game by Paul Denon, actually, who's more famous for Dune Imperium. This I think is a really fun polyomino game with quite a unique and interesting drafting mechanism, as you have this whole big board of these tiles and you're rolling dice, and that will show you which tiles you can take from. Now I have done a full review of this one, so be sure to check that one out if it interests you, because it seems to have flown under the radar somewhat. I can't quite remember how this game went because I did play it at the beginning, or quite a few weeks ago now, but this one's gone strong. I wasn't sure if this was going to start plummeting with more familiarity, but that's not the case at all. And I think it's just a really well put together polyomino, puzzly style game with variable scoring objectives and stuff. It's just really fun, and a nice kind of a family plus weight game with some unique and thematic mechanisms, such as this kind of bandit and sheriff mechanism, where you have bandits that pop up on your board and you use sheriffs to shoot in their line of sight to kill those bandits and hopefully get more points. Really good. That is Wild Tiled West. Also played I think it was a 2-player game of Dragon Keepers. It was a very close game. I think there might have been 1 point in it at the end. And I think this game is actually, on its own, I think it's fantastic, but they use these additional modules in the box that give you additional powers for these gems that you can gain. I think that makes the game even better. I can't remember which one we used, but all the ones I've played with so far are very good, and they actually add to the game quite significantly and give you more of an incentive to cash in your sets earlier rather than just saving them up for those big cash-ins. And I think that big cash-in was what actually won me the game this time, because you can collect these dragon cards, or these special dragon cards, that will mean you have to cash in quite a few of the same cards. You get a massive bonus, and that is taking the highest value amulet. And this is a somewhat randomized setup where a random amount of amulets are taken out of play, and there was only one value 20 amulet available, and I managed to grab that one, which I think was just enough to swing me the victory. But a lovely, lightweight set collection game with some unique mechanisms and some good interaction as well, because you can actually partake in other players' turns. So that is Dragon Keepers, another game that did really well in my 2023 ratings. And the final game, in fact the penultimate game I'm talking about today, is Qin. Again, I play a lot of Qin. I think I played this one on Christmas Day, just 2 players. I play this with my mum quite a lot. We normally have tight games, but for some reason, this game did not go in my mum's favour. I think I managed to get rid of all of my pagodas before she got rid of even half of hers. So maybe she had a bad day, maybe I had a good day, I'm not quite sure. But this is kind of like a domino variant. You're trying to connect these tiles together, shedding your pagodas, connecting to these towns and getting rid of your pagodas that way. This was, I believe, second on my top 10 new to me games of 2023. It is an absolutely stellar tile placement game with a kind of an abstract feel to it, but also a breeziness to it as well. And the final game that I played is a 2-player game of Terraforming Mars Ares Expedition. It's been a while since I played this one. I had only played it one time before this most recent time. It's an engine building card game which does have some cool synergies. It has the what's the card game called? A Race for the Galaxy mechanism, where you are selecting which action to take, and you get a kind of a boosted version of that. And you can also partake in other players' actions, but you get a lesser version of it. Think of Puerto Rico. I like that mechanism. I think in 2 players it moves a bit too quickly, and it's also, I don't know, I think the turns become a bit too repetitive because you're not partaking in as many phases. It kind of feels like you just get a bunch of resources, play a card, get a bunch of resources, play a card, and so on. And I also feel like it's a bit too much work to get your engine going for quite little payoff. So I would like to see a somewhat kick-started, and I don't mean that in the crowdfunding term, I mean like a game that starts you further advanced into the game without starting from the ground up, I suppose. Just to make it move at a brisker pace, because it does kind of drag its heels a bit and takes quite a long time. And the way you get points isn't ultimately very satisfying, in my opinion. It feels like you get a point here and there, and sometimes you're putting in quite a lot of work to get those few points. So I'm not quite sure if the ratio of fun to time to depth is quite there for me, but I know I'm probably in the minority there because it is a popular game. But that is Ares Expedition. So that's it really, that's all the games that I have been playing. Again, not a whole lot, but hopefully the next kind of segment will be better than that. But hopefully you've enjoyed the video. If you have, please be sure to hit like and subscribe to my channel, and check out my other content too. And for everybody else, I'll see you next time on Chairman of the Board. Bye bye.